Good morning, English funkers. This is Professor Frank, the coolest motherfunking English teacher on YouTube. The English ELA exam consists of multiple choice questions, short answer, and long answer responses. Today we are going to focus on the long answer response, particularly how to plan for it and how to write that first paragraph so you can score 4 out of 4. Let's get into it. It's critical to know which problems are worth more in your ELA exam. This is the 6th grade exam that we are going to be focusing on today, and we will use a real-life example from the 2008 New York State ELA exam, but if you're in another state, it will virtually be the same thing. Remember, the short answer questions, the one that you actually have to handwrite or some of you taking on the computer type, have two types. There's the 2-point question and the Big Daddy, the 4 out of 4. Now, this 4 out of 4 question is different than the 2 out of 2 questions. You have to answer it differently than all the other short answers. First thing you do, read the passage or passages. Sometimes the question asks you to compare two passages. No big deal. You read them, you go through, you jot down your notes along the side, you underline the important parts. Remember, the main thing we're looking for is the central idea or main idea. A lot of times in the exam, they're going to use the term central idea. That's only the main idea. The main idea or central idea, which is the same thing, simply states what the funk is this passage really about? The most important idea of the passage. The central idea of the passage. What is the main concept this author is trying to convey to us? No big deal. But just remember, central idea and main idea are the same thing for this exam. Before we start to write anything in terms of an answer, we are going to funking plan. They give you a planning page for the 4 out of 4 Big Daddy question. You will be provided a planning page. This will inform you that, hey, the Big Daddy, the 4 out of 4 response is coming, and we're going to utilize this planning page. Note that nothing on this planning page will be graded. We don't write our answer on the planning page, but we are going to funk and ace this exam by taking advantage of this planning page. So as I said earlier, we're going to use the 2018 Big Daddy question that was released in New York. It is based upon 2 passages. The first passage is titled Excerpt from The Importance of Winning. And the second passage is The Thirst for First is the Worst. Now, these 2 passages are given to students, and you will be asked for the Big Daddy to use both to answer the question. Let's take a look at the Big Daddy question. Another hint and tip to know that you're answering a Big Daddy, 4 out of 4. This is worth double all the other short answer questions, is the fact that you will see bullet points in the question. Let's read it together. The authors of The Thirst for First is the Worst and Excerpt from The Importance of Winning have different opinions about whether athletes should be committed to winning. What are the authors' different points of view about this topic? How is this point of view revealed in each article? Use details from both articles to support your response. That is then followed by a breakdown of what you actually have to answer. So even if you don't read the first part, in the second part, we'll show you exactly what needs to be answered. In your response, be sure to describe the author's different opinions about whether athletes should be committed to winning. Explain how this point of view is revealed in each article. Those are the 2 bullet points we need to answer. And lastly, it says use details from both articles to support your response. And they bold in both. So in our response, we're going to answer these questions set forth in the bullet point and then use both articles to cite. Before you write that first paragraph, I said it earlier, we are going to funking plan. We tear out that planning page, and then next to it, we'll put the question being asked. Remember, we can focus directly on the bullet points because it separates out exactly what we need to answer. Now, it may seem like there's 2 bullet points that they're asking questions about. However, that doesn't mean that there's only 2 questions being asked. A lot of the time you have to read carefully because inside each bullet point may be more than 1 question. For example, we see here, describe the authors, that's plural, both, different opinions about whether athletes should be committed to winning. So here they're asking about the opinion of the authors too. So technically this will be 2 questions that we need to answer. So the first question that we need to answer is describe the author's opinion about whether athletes should be committed to winning. So we know that the planning page is not graded. We can use shorthand, we can use any type of writing or symbols because we don't have to have perfect grammar, spelling, or anything here. The main objective of this planning page is to find out how many questions need to be answered and then actually find the answers before we start writing. Remember, we have all day. Those little funking teachers said there's no time limit, so let it be. Put your time into this 4 out of 4 question. So we read the question carefully, and we remember Professor Frank, when we see those bullet points, ask yourself, are there more than 1 question being asked? And here, because they're asking us to describe the author's opinions, both opinions, it's technically 2 questions. So we know we have 2 articles, the Thirst First author's opinion about athletes' commitment to winning. We're not going to answer that yet. All we're doing is setting up the planning page. Leave space because we're going to put in some details in our answer. Number 2 question is, staying with that same bullet point, we need to do the importance of winning. So I'm going to say, importance of winning, author's view on athletes commit to winning. Notice how, again, although there was only 1 bullet point here, it's asking 2 questions. That's very critical. So we're going to have 2 answers and 2 supporting details for each of these questions. The next bullet point sets forth, explain how this point of view is revealed in each article. They're referring to the point of view of each author, and that means we have 2 more questions. Leave space underneath, 3, and then how Thirst First author reveals point of view. That's number 3. And 4th will be how winning author reveals POV. This ability to separate out all the questions being asked will separate you from the other students who won't score a 3 or 4 on this question. And remember, this is a 4 out of 4. The other questions being 2 out of 2. Put the time into your 4 out of 4 questions. And you may say, Professor Frank, I don't need to do a planning page. I'll go right into the writing. Yeah, maybe you could do it. But why? You spent all this time training for this damn exam. Take your time. There's no time limit. Planning pages will make your writing so much easier. And also, a lot of times they will reveal questions that you may not think to answer. For example, if you look at this first bullet point, describe the author's different opinions about whether athletes should be committed to winning. You may believe that that's only 1 question and sort of put that into 1 particular paragraph, when in reality it's 2 questions that require 2 paragraphs. Now, as we set forth 1, 2, 3, and 4, the next step is to find the answers for each of these questions. And where do we find it? In the actual work itself. Thirst for First author's opinion about athletes commit to winning. So we go to Thirst for First, and we need to find an answer. So underneath this section, you better put an A, and this is critical, answer equals, and then we're going to find the answer. And beneath that, we're going to have support 1 and support 2. Those will be the 2 supporting details that we are going to find from the passage to answer this first question. And when we finally go to write our response, each question will have a separate paragraph. So let's go find the answer. Thirst for first, we're looking to answer the question about the author's opinion about athletes' commitment to winning. In our response, we could see from the title, "The thirst for first is the worst." We can assume that her opinion about athletes' commitment to winning is not necessarily the main goal of sport. But let's go through and see if we can find some supporting details to that response. In paragraph 5, as you read, the author wrote, "For someone focused on winning, losing can be hard to stomach. In my experience, it is far more fulfilling to enjoy the work, game, or swim meet than constantly compare myself to others." This is going to go along with our potential answer. In thirst for first is the worst, this author believes that winning isn't everything. And that could be our potential answer to our question. So let's go back to the question planning page. After we read the passage looking for an answer, one potential answer that I came up with is athletes should focus on having fun playing rather than winning. There could be more than one answer, and this could be rephrased in different ways, so don't get so crazy as to how, but it's important that we have the A equals, and this answers that question. Next, we need to look for two supporting statements. Sometimes we use quotes, sometimes we're going to rephrase a statement from the passage. So let's go back to the passage, and we see a quote here that we could use to tie into our answer. So I'm going to put Q1 here, and next we're going to try and find another quote that we can use to support our response that the author feels that athletes should focus on having fun more than winning. Next, we can underline this quote, "While winning can be gratifying, it certainly isn't everything." And this we'll label as Q2. So we go back to our planning page, Q1, and we simply write Q1 and Q2 because we know that that's going to assign back to the quotes that we had. We move right on to the next question. And this one asks the importance of winning author's view of an athlete's commitment to winning. So we go to the other article and do the same thing. We look to the third paragraph and we can find our answer to the author's opinion as to the point of view regarding an athlete's commitment to winning. My argument is that beginning levels should develop in youth a genuine passion for sports that fosters at the high school level and above the necessary emphasis on winning. Therefore, the author is saying that the older the athlete gets, the more the focus should be on winning. So we go back to our planning page. And remember, we always do A equals. And then we're going to put in our answer. The author's view in this article, older athletes, when athlete is in high school, focus should be on winning. When athlete is in high school or above, focus should be on winning. Can we make that answer a little bit more simple? And that's the beauty of having as much time as we need to. And whatever answer we have here, we need to be able to support it with details from the actual article. When athlete reaches high school, focus should be on winning. Next, we're just going to find two supporting quotes from the article. Let's go to the article. The first supporting quote will be Q1. We'll label it as Q1. That's the first quote that we use to formulate our answer. So we know that this over here will be Q1. And then the next, we got to find another one. And we see here in the fifth paragraph, we get another direct quote that satisfies our answer. So we'll label that as Q2. And here is Q2. For the third and fourth question, they want to know how each author reveals his or her point of view. Let's stick with this one here in terms of point of view. In this question, again, we're going to have to find an answer and two supporting quotes. And you may say, Professor Frank, this is going to take all day. Well, if you want to get a 4 out of 4, you have to put the time into the planning page. And you'll see how easy it is to develop this response once you have a perfect planning page. So let's look for how this author reveals their point of view. Here, the author reveals his point of view by generally comparing and contrasting two types of groups: the recreational athlete who just wants to play for fun, and the competitive athlete who is in a formal team sport and their main objective is to win. The answer to the point of view is comparing recreational and competitive athletes. There can be many different answers how one reveals their point of view. This is one I chose. Now we're going to find two quotes to back it up. In paragraph 2, the sentence clearly sets forth that the author is comparing recreational to competitive athletes. We'll label that as Q3. And potentially another quote here would be Q4. So we have on our planning page Q3 and Q4. Remember, no one sees your planning page. You can write whatever the hell you want. You could say this funkin' test is so goddamn long and annoying, I want to get the funk out of here. It don't make a difference. Nothing on this planning page will be graded. It's all how you organize. So finally, get that answer for the third question. Answer equals. So let's look to the author of the original passage. The author's point of view is revealed here by personal experience. So the answer would be, how she reveals it is by explaining her personal experience with winning. And we're going to find two more quotes to find it. Then we'll find a lot in this. This will be Q3. I like this quote here. We'll label this one Q4. So now we go back to the planning page. The author for Thirst for First is the Worst reveals her point of view by revealing personal experiences. Let's change that to by using or describing personal experiences. I didn't want to use reveal because reveal is in the actual question. So describing personal experiences is just as good, probably better. And we know that we found Q3 and 4. So our support 1 equals Q3 and support 2 equals Q4. Now, little funkers, you're ready to write your 4 out of 4. And with this, you're going to get a 4 out of 4 and score higher than all the other kids. We started this off with the first paragraph. And this is why it's important to have a good planning page. And this long lesson is going to teach us how to write the first paragraph. So in the first paragraph, we are going to start with in, and then we're going to quote. We're not going to put any punctuation. We're just going to put the exact title in quotes. And in the Thirst for First is the Worst, an excerpt from The Importance of Winning. Okay, we didn't do anything besides, and make sure this is indented properly, besides quote the passages properly. And if you forget how to do it, just look up at the question and they have it there. And rephrase the first question. Remember, there's 4 questions, but generally there's 2 that we can have to address because each one has a separate response for each author. Here in the first paragraph, we are simply going to put the answer. We're going to get the A equals the answer from everyone somehow in here. One author believes athletes should focus on having fun, while the other thinks the focus should be on winning. That hits the answer for the first 2. But this is still the first paragraph. I want you to cover every answer. I'm going to show you why it's important. Both authors express their point of view differently. One uses personal experience, while the other compares recreational and competitive. This may seem like a great answer, and it is for a first paragraph. It has all the answers in it. The only issue I have with what I wrote so far is that when I'm citing one author believes athletes should focus on having fun, while the other thinks the focus should be on winning, it doesn't specify which one does and which one doesn't. We could add in the author of the... So now that we know the first paragraph indented properly, quoting the passages, and then puts in all four answers. Notice we didn't put any of the supporting responses, but we did answer the question. So when someone reads your first paragraph, they should have answers to every single question in here. The next paragraph, you indent and you start with your number one answer again, so it will flow nicely. The first sentence, the author of. As you move on to your second paragraph, we're going to have an answer to the first question, and then the third paragraph will answer the next, and so on. So the first paragraph, again, when you read it, will have an answer to all the questions, and all you have to do is look to your A equals for each of them on your planning page. So make sure that that first paragraph has a nice flow to it and has an answer. It just doesn't rephrase the question. Now that you have an answer, I want to see the second paragraph come from your first paragraph. The author of the thirst for first is worst believes athletes should focus on having fun. Well, that comes right from your answer, one of your four answers in the first paragraph, and it comes right from the planning page, and then you'll put in your supporting details. So the 4 out of 4 question is long. As you see, it's also a test of your stamina. Do you have the mental fortitude to make it through this exam? A lot of students will quit. My funkin' students won't ever funkin' quit. We're going to use our funkin' planning page. We're going to plan it out beautifully and then write. And hey, once this exam is over, we're going to funkin' party. This is Professor Frank, the coolest motherfunkin' English teacher on YouTube, saying have a good day. I'm funkin' out.